Hey guys, it's Miss Miller. I wanted to go over the lab that you're going to be doing this week. First of all, you're basically just going to be analyzing some data that my AP Physics class took when we started centripetal motion or circular motion. So what we did was this is a pipe, or just a piece of PVC pipe here, and there is a weight hanging at the end of the rope here. That provided the force. Okay, it's providing tension to the string, and therefore that tension is what is keeping this mass here. So that's our mass. It's what's keeping that mass moving in a circular motion. Okay, because by now you've read the notes, so you know that in order for an object to go in a circle, then it must have a centripetal force, and that force is the tension caused from this weight. Now, the radius of this rope, or the radius of the circular motion, is the distance from the rope to the center of mass there, and that's what we call R. Now, in this lab, you're going to be given 3 tables worth of data, and you're going to graph. I want you to graph the velocity squared. Okay, they're going to have, you're basically taking the data that my AP class got in doing this lab, and so that way you don't have to actually do it, but you're going to take the data. They have a column for velocity, which is your linear speed or linear velocity there, a tangential velocity, because we know if that mass was to break, then it would go flying off in a certain direction. Okay, she's rotating this here. Now, you are going to create another column for velocity squared, and then you're going to graph velocity squared versus mass, and I want you to tell me the relationship between those two. If you need to look back from Unit 1 when we were discussing relationships, when I say what is the relationship between force and mass, you need to say the relationship between force, or the force is proportional to mass, or force is proportional to the inverse of mass, inversely proportional, or proportional to the square root of mass, however you want to look at it, okay? Whatever the relationship is, remember you have to look at your graphs. Now, you're going to graph v squared versus mass. Tell me that relationship. You're going to graph v squared versus the radius, and tell me that relationship. And you're going to find v squared versus force, and tell me that relationship. Now, the way we found velocity in this case is, well, we know velocity is a distance over time. So we said, okay, well, what distance does an object travel when it's moving in a circle? After some discussion, we came up to the conclusion that an object travels the distance of the circumference, okay, or some multiple of the circumference. So we said, well, the circumference is given by 2 pi r, and if we were to talk about one circumference, then we need to divide that distance by the time it takes for one revolution. Now, from Unit 1, we know that the time for one revolution is called the period. So the way that we found the speed in each case is given by v equals 2 pi r over our period. Now, I'm not going to have you calculate the velocities, okay? You're going off of the data that was already collected for you. You need to, again, create the value for v squared, or the column for v squared, so that way you're graphing v squared versus the variable. Now, a lot of my students said, well, why do I have to graph v squared? Well, I'm making it easier on you, because if you didn't graph v squared, then every function you get would be a square root function, and then you would have to linearize it again, which would be really ugly. So all I'm doing is making it easier on you. Now, once you get your relationships, you need to show me how all of those relationships work out to confirm the force for circular motion, or your centripetal force equation. Okay, your centripetal force equals the mass, which is the mass on the end of the rope, times v squared over the radius. Your job to rearrange all of those variables and show me how your lab confirms that. Okay, so you will give me when you go to do this, you will give me all of the graphs that you got from the data, and I want your conclusions. Your conclusions, you need to state the relationship between all of the variables, and then you need to discuss how all of those confirm the relationship that we see through the equation F equals mv squared over r. All right. So I want to tell you how we found the period, though. The period is how long it takes for one revolution. So the way we did that is we let the student swing the mass around 10 times, and then we divided that by 10 to get a period. And you'll see that there's like multiple times listed. That's because we ended up taking an average for our calculation for period. So I hope that makes it clear what I want from you for your lab. Have a good day.